Hi there, I'm Logan Condon. I'm here with Brett Mayerson and Patrick Henkels, and this is Stick Time. Brett, let's get right into it.
All right, the Devils, 3-3-1. Devils coming off of 2 straight wins, actually. A shootout win last night, and before that, an overtime win against the Rangers because of one man who was starting to heat up, Lee Stempniak, a former New York Ranger, actually.
I don't know much about that team,
I
so
mean-
it's not my expertise.
It's really sad how the Devils aren't doing as well as they used to. I mean, it's really sad when you look at the stadium now. It's not as packed as it used to be.
I know.
With all these no-name guys who are old and washed up.
Yeah, well, and really,
Patrick Elias.
and really, when you look back at in the past seasons for the Devils, this was a team that used to make the playoffs like every year. You knew that these guys were.
And if
playoff
they didn't make it,
contenders.
they came close. They were on the border.
Yeah, like they had guys like Ilya Kovalchuk, Zach Parise. They still had the old
Clarkson.
Iron Horse, Martin Brodeur in goal. But unfortunately, now Kovalchuk left. Parise is on the Wild, and now Brodeur's working for the Blues.
Biggest middle finger I've ever seen.
We know, Logan. Okay, so anyway, let's talk about the New York Rangers now and the top team in the Metropolitan Division.
5-2-1. Not a surprising start.
Not a surprising start. I mean, this team really has been building over the past few years. I mean, you look back at the finals with the LA Kings a few years back, and then you realize, they had so many chances to win in that series, but the Kings honestly had a stronger organization. They had the great Jonathan Quick in goal, and he's doing really, really great this year as well.
Very good coach in Daryl Sutter.
Yeah, very good coach. And honestly, I felt that there were some games that they should have won that series. But overall, I feel like one of these years the Rangers will get there because their team just keeps building and building and building.
But the question is, though, every year they get in, can they finish?
Yeah,
That's true.
they're a team that has not been able to finish what they started.
I know. I think overtime is probably one of their biggest
Flaws?
not so much flaws, just like their biggest problems more. Well, flaws the same as problem. Forget what I said. So anyway, yeah, that's probably one of their biggest problems because, and also I think it would have to be finishing teams, and because in the finals against the Kings, they already went through like two out of the 3 series to get to LA. Like 2 of them went to 7 games, which can really be fatiguing for a team. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I believe.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
long and grueling.
Especially when those games are like at 7 o'clock and then with like triple overtimes going till like 2 in the morning.
I know, and I have to admit, once they won in overtime, the Kings in game 5, 6 was it?
Game 5. They
Game
played
5.
5 games that series.
Yeah, I mean, you could really see the fatigue in the Rangers. With Henrik Lundqvist just slumped there. They knew they had a hard year, and what a heartbreaking finish. But honestly, I feel that with all these new players they're getting and all these adjustments the management's making, I think that this team might have a chance if they keep the road they're going on now.
Okay.
And the Islanders, let's talk about the team that just moved into a new arena this year. 4 wins, 1 loss, and 1 overtime loss. Islanders playing pretty strong to start off. John Tavares is really putting the team on his back.
Yeah.
A lot of depth in that team. Halak just came back from injury, and his
Right.
first game back got a 6-2 win.
Wow.
That's really good. As long as he can stay healthy, I feel like they'll have a good shot of being playoff contenders. But the problem with that is he usually comes across 1 or 2 injuries during a season.
So, Brett, can you tell me some differences about the new Islanders arena versus Nassau Coliseum?
Yeah, the Barclays Center was built originally just for the Brooklyn Nets, built for just basketball only and concerts. Now, what I've heard from people who've been there is that it's not the best hockey arena. The noise is not as loud as Nassau Coliseum was. So, actually, if you watch a game on TV, on this side over here, there are no seats behind this goal.
Right.
There are not, because that's just how the arena is designed, because it was made for basketball.
Right.
So, a lot of areas are closed off because it's not hockey seats, but like the way the rink is laid out, you can't see if you're sitting behind the visiting goalie to start off the game, you can't even see the net.
Where are the Islanders right now in the division?
The division, let's pull it up right here on the standings. They, in the Metropolitan Division, are currently in first place.
First place.
Oh, actually, no, third place.
You said the Rangers were in first place, Brett.
Yeah, that's right.
Division, they
First place in the division of the Rangers. Second is the Caps, and third is the Islanders.
Okay.
That's usually the top 3 teams in that division the past few years. But with the Islanders, it's not as loud as it has been the past few years. I said earlier, and it's not the same. But they don't seem to care. They're still doing as well. They're still doing really good.
It doesn't matter about what the fans, how they're viewing it. It's about how they're playing their game.
Right.
Yeah, true.
It's not going to alter them. It's just ice is a sheet of ice, and they'll do what they have to do.
I think the great Brad Park, great defenseman from the old days, said it best. The glass isn't there to keep the players out. It's to keep the fans out.
Oh yeah.
because there's a
Oh, yeah,
lot.
totally.
There's a lot of passion, chaos, and overall just excitement and energy that goes on that ice that those fans really can't relate to. I mean, being in the NHL, I think. Well, I've never experienced it, but I'm sure the players really know what it's like. There's a lot of drama, a lot of chaos, a lot of passion that goes into it, and honestly, you know, I have to admit, it probably must be like the best feeling in the world for those guys.
Oh yeah, no matter where you play,
I know.
Yeah, good and bad. You can at least say you played in the big leagues.
unless you're
Yeah.
playing in Toronto. Very true.
Ouch.
Ooh, sorry, Leafs fans.
Called you out, Toronto.
Oh, yeah, don't throw your jerseys on the ice. All right, let's talk about the teams that have absolutely just fallen short so far this year. Number one, as we just mentioned, the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I also believe the Anaheim Ducks
Oh, the
might
Anaheim-
be because they usually finish
start off
first in
slow
the
anyway.
league. Well, usually they have. It depends on the year. If they have a big, strong year, they usually fall short in the playoffs, and if they start off rusty, they kind of go a couple rounds. But
Their problem is their goaltending. They don't have a starting goaltender. They rotate between Frederick Anderson and Gibson. So Anderson or Gibson, pick one. It's a toss up. They're both as good as the other, and that happens to them in the playoffs. That one has a bad game one game, they start the next guy. Next guy has a good game, and they don't know who to start, and that's why they never make it far in the playoffs.
And I have to admit, even though I'm not a Leafs fan, you gotta feel for him. I mean, I'm sure Logan doesn't because in this playoff series with the Bruins and the Maple Leafs, you know, that crowd of people just watching the game, thinking they're gonna win. They
had a
I
3-1 lead.
I
How do you
honestly
blow that?
thought that
I
they were
know.
gonna lose. If you go on my Facebook post, you'll
Yeah.
see 5 minutes before the game ends. Oh, Bruins had a great season. Oh, you guys do great next year. And then right after the game, oh, we're going to the next round, baby. Yeah, I'm so excited. But you gotta feel for James Reimer in that. I forget his
He
first
doesn't
name.
even start anymore.
He
James
doesn't
Reimer.
because of that. It was a defensive error, and you can't really that goal in the overtime wasn't really his fault when you have a man like Chara.
There were so many people in
screening
front of him too. He couldn't. Not just Charlie. There was like 3 other guys in front of him. He couldn't even see.
Right.
So when you can't see, it's hard to make the save.
Yeah. I really find it to be really annoying when people like just blame the goalie for everything.
It's a team effort, not
Team
just one
effort.
person.
Right.
Yeah, but Toronto now, I mean, they still have some solid players. They still have Van Riemsdyk, who's
Kessel.
Kessel's on the
Oh
Penguins
yeah,
now.
I forgot he got traded.
That hurt losing Kessel. They still have Van Riemsdyk, who's going to be their big star. They got some pretty good guys in the offseason, some good young talent.
Do
has
they
been
still
coming up.
have Kadri?
They do have Nazem Kadri still. But, I mean, it's just not the same anymore. When you lose all the talent, because what happened was with that, like you had Kessel and David Booth were going at it one time in practice. Booth finally officially retired. But they went at it, and then that kind of messed up the whole chemistry of the team.
Right.
There, because everyone was blaming each other for these losses. Because, like, if, for example, Jonathan Bernier is playing goal, he lets in 4 goals. They lose, like, 4-3. They're blaming that on Bernier. They're not blaming that on the team. Reimer does the same thing. They're blaming it on Reimer. The team all blames it on each other. And when the team blames it on each other, that causes a lot of bad chemistry on the team and a lot of friction in the locker rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And as many hockey fans have experienced, friction with the team is not the best thing because it brings your team down.
It not only is it a physical game, it's a mental game. And if you have good chemistry with your teammates, you're gonna start making better plays with them. You're gonna start winning as a team. But if you just have one player or a couple like players that like everyone, but then a couple players who are problems in the locker room, you have to get rid of those players because they'll drag your team down.
Why do you think the Jets got rid of Evander Kane?
They're a cancer. That's why.
Yeah.
You know, those players that that always get into conflicts with other players. It doesn't really matter. You have to stick as a unit, or else the team is ultimately going to fall because of your bad attitude. That's what's gonna happen. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean it's just what happens. And let's talk about the young players that have made impacts this year too. Jack Eichel, his first NHL game as a Buffalo Sabres, scores one of the sickest goals I have ever seen from a tough angle off of a rebound, and he is now one of the top scorers on Buffalo. Connor McDavid, one of the top scorers on Edmonton. Surprise, surprise, right?
Yeah.
And these two guys are being as successful as everyone predicted.
It's going to be a toss-up between these two for Rookie of the Year. I personally like Connor McDavid a lot better because he's just an all-around good player, and I haven't heard much about the other guy. But we'll see how the season plays out.
The problem is with Eichel is that Eichel also has all these people to work with because the Sabres finally decide, let's build a team, guys. So
Yeah.
they traded for Ryan O'Reilly. They signed Evander Kane.
Yep.
They re-signed Matt Molson. They
Right.
got Thomas Vanek back. So they still have all these good players. So you have great scorers, plus you got Eichel in the draft. This team is having great chemistry, and the only problem that they have right now is they need a solid goaltender, and they're set.
I know.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's just the key to it.
That's
I mean,
basically the same story as the Oilers, a once great franchise struck by hard times in recent years. They're finally started. They have a lot of good youth. They have Connor McDavid, Taylor Hall. They have all these players.
Jordan Eberle.
Jordan Eberle, he's another one.
That's right.
But that's what cycles this team go through. Usually you have really great dynasties, and then right after it drops off to years of just trying to build your team back up to that.
And that's in every sport.
It's in every
Yep.
sport.
It's not just hockey. I mean, you have just like, let's take an example of teams like, let's take teams like the Islanders first of all. The Islanders went through those years with Potvin and Nystrom, 4
Yeah.
straight Stanley Cups,
Yep.
and then they dropped off for a while. Now they're good again.
Right.
Same thing where you had it in you had it in baseball too. You look at the New York Yankees. Yankees were so good all those years, 27 World Series rings, and they missed the playoffs 2 consecutive years. The dynasty started to fall down a little bit.
Yep.
Now they're getting okay again. It's same thing in every sport. Baseball, hockey, football, basketball. It happens everywhere. And unfortunately, some teams just never really get out of it.
Yeah,
That's true.
You can never rebound unless you have a good front office in that team that
Which
knows.
the Oilers definitely don't have.
They need a better.
Their general manager was
I really
their
agree.
coach last
I
year.
really,
guys.
I really agree with that because when you look back, I think one of the most storied, like worst franchises in all of the NHL were the California Golden Seals. I mean, they had Charles O'Finley as their owner, who also owned the Oakland Athletics, and he only had a team, and he just kind of used them as like
Like a publicity stunt.
like a publicity stunt. Yeah, he made them paint their skates, which made them weigh more, so they skated slower.
And whenever they would get a mark on them for blocking a puck, they wouldn't scrape the paint off. They just put another layer right on.
adding to the weight of the skates. You can't just turn your whole team into a circus act just to attract more fans. You got to get the right players, and you got to get the right coach. You got to get the right team chemistry.
Yeah, look at the
That's
Blackhawks.
that's why the Seals failed, and that's why the Blackhawks now are one of probably the best franchises out there.
Look at the Blackhawks. They had Dale Talon, the old general manager, who's now in Florida, built this dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
He is actually the guy who signed Patrick Sharp. He drafted Patrick Kane. He drafted Jonathan Taves.
Very smart.
He drafted Duncan Keith. He drafted Brent Seabrook. He drafted that entire first line, which they're all still on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And after he left and went to Florida, they're still good. And he just built this great dynasty. And they've won the Stanley Cup, was it 3 times in the past 6 years? Or 2 in the past 4?
5.
3 in the past 5, jeez. 3 times in the past 5 years they won the Stanley Cup.
Or 2 or 3. They beat the Bruins once. They beat
The Lightning
the
last year,
Lightning
and they beat
last
the
year.
Flyers.
They beat the Flyers.
Yeah, that's 3 times. Wow.
Yeah, 3 times in the past 5
And
years.
the
And
Kings won twice.
yeah, and you look at that, it's just like one guy. He was not the only guy though, because they had a great front office, which they still do. Because their general manager doesn't really do that much of the work. Their front office gets these guys to come in. The general manager literally just says, "Oh, here's the contract, sign it." That's all they do now.
Right.
When you have a great front office like that, you build these dynasties. All right, and let's get a prediction. I know it's really early in the season, but predictions. Which one of the teams that is usually good, such as the Ducks, that are starting off really poor, do you think is finally going to come out of the slump?
Yeah, I feel like they'll come out of a slump.
The Ducks.
Yeah, the Ducks, because usually they start picking up their season mid to end the season, just finishing it out strong. They're not really a good first half of the year team. They usually just work out the kinks from the off season, and then they usually pull it together and make the playoffs.
Yeah, what do you think, Patch?
I think that the Ducks, every team I think really has a shot to make it out of a slump. It can always happen. You gotta remember about like the Los Angeles Kings. They usually
No name team.
Yeah, they were a no-name team. They usually didn't have that great of a regular season. They just barely made the playoffs by the skin of their teeth. But then all of a sudden they exploded and won 2 Stanley Cups.
I think the Kings are going to be the team to come out of the slump because they're 500 right now. They missed the playoffs last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to make it again. Personally, they still have all that talent. They lost the past 2 years that they've won the Stanley Cup. They've lost 3 important guys. Slava Voynov went to prison, well, for other reasons, and then because of domestic abuse, and then they lost Marian Gaborik.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's gone. So what? They come up, they bring up this more young talent. They get Kyle Clifford coming up from the minors.
Right.
They had Alec Martinez finally break out. I don't know how that happened, but he led them to another Stanley Cup.
Yep.
They're just like the Rangers. They're so deep. So I think that the Kings are going to be the surprise in the West.
And I think a surprise, not trying to be biased here, but the Bruins, they never start off this bad.
That's like me saying not to be biased with Florida.
But I'm being saying right now, the Bruins, in my eyes, they're doing awful. Tuukka Rask, not the same. Zdeno Chara, not the same.
He's been hurt.
Well, he's like that's
He's
why.
banged
No,
up.
he's you could tell age is affecting some of the players on the team. David Krejci, he's still good, but he's not playing the same as he did. Same with Marchand and Lucic. They're not really big names in the league anymore. You don't really hear much from them. The only one player that's still the same is Patrice Bergeron in my eyes. He is just all around a good player, but if they can pick it up and start getting more consistent and all the players just snap out of it and just play as a unit, I feel like they could be a contender.
Yeah.
But as of now, they don't look good at all.
I think there's two teams that can surprise us in the Eastern Conference. Not to be biased, like I said earlier. Florida, definitely, because Jaromir Jagr, 43 years young, still playing like he's 20 years old.
And the Red Wings, starting off 500, like we have on our standing sheet right here. They're starting off at 500, but how many consecutive years have they made the playoffs? 24 consecutive seasons of making the playoffs. The longest active streak, fun fact, in all of sports for a team to be making the postseason. And the past few years, because they're so old, the youngest guy they have right now is Gustav Nyquist. Like, that's the youngest guy they have right now. Zetterberg's aging. He's getting hurt. Daniel Alfredsson's getting older. Pavel Datsuk's getting older, but he's still good. And they have a goaltending issue with Mrazek and Howard not knowing who they want. But they somehow always make the playoffs.
But
And I think they're going to do it.
That could be, with the players getting older, that could be troublesome. It doesn't seem like they're looking to get any young talent. It looks like they're just kind of content with what they have now. In my eyes,
Because they have made it for 24
well, they
straight
made
years
it,
with the same system.
but they should basically have a backup plan and get some good young players, put them in the minors, let them develop. And if any problems happen with their older veterans, they would have a fallback plan just so that they can still be consistent as they always are.
That works for any team in any sport, really.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, that's all we got for today. For everybody here at Stick Time, I'm Brett Marison.
I'm Logan Condon.
And I'm Patrick Hankels.
We'll see you next time for more Stick Time.